If the raid on Mar-A-Lago was about January 6th or Russia or missing documents from the National Archives, why were FBI agents rifling through Melania Trump's underwear drawer? I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. Many of you probably have not, though. Why would they be going through her clothes when she was not there? What would they possibly have been looking for? A lot of people are still hung up on the planting of evidence or all this other kind of stuff. Well, they would have no reason to be in there to do that one way or the other. You see, they were looking for something specific. Moral outrage. You see, they have given up. The left has given up on this idea of defeating Donald Trump in 2024. They don't believe they can stop him from running. And everything they have tried to make people judge him based on his actions when he was in office, that's all failed because of the utter and complete total failure, primarily of Joe Biden. So they have to go to the well once more. They have to go to what they know works. And it has always been selective moral outrage. It is what they know. It is what the left does. You have to think like a liberal. You can't think like a conservative. This is, of course, on the left, the very pretty model Carrie Prejean, who said on 20 April 2009 that she believed marriage should just be between a man and a woman. When Barack Obama, 16 August of that previous year, said the same thing. Of course, because she stuck by her guns, she was canceled and she was ridiculed and made fun of and had all these horrible attacks. He changed his mind, and of course, we know about, well, that's not what this video is really about. Him anyway.
My response to that is bullshit. Bullshit. There is no way that's what they were searching for. There's no way. I watched all the coverage last night. I've read everything, and I read Andy McCarthy this morning, who, as it turns out, agrees with me. I agree with him. He's a former top prosecutor, former assistant U.S. attorney. And he says the same thing. This is about January 6th. If you believe this is about classified documents having to do with bullshit Trump took with him when he left office, your head is in the sky.
Now, this is an interesting statement from a Manhattan self-professed conservative, Megyn Kelly. Now, the reason I let this play is because she is still not seeing what's right in front of her face. Because they did this with her. She has completely forgotten how they tried to morally, selectively cancel her using all sorts of sleazy, nasty tactics.
I think that's the more likely scenario, because people will say the damn Republicans didn't do a darn thing. They didn't do anything to stop this. They weren't even outspoken on it. Where was Mitch McConnell? You have such low approval ratings in the voters like me of the Republicans. I haven't called myself a Republican since Reagan, but now they're worthless. They're worthless. I really think
this is why you and I always get along.
I think.
Now that was a Mormon. See if I can bring this back up. Talking to a conservative from Manhattan. Now, here's the really weird part about this. Florida conservatives versus Mormons versus conservatives from New York might as well be three different political parties. Because conservatives from New York are pro-choice, they don't believe in creation, and they don't believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. In fact, they confess sins primarily to a man in Rome or one of his agents. So it's very odd to see people arguing over what they think this is about when they really, it's staring them right in the face. It's staring them right in the face. And all you would need to be is a minor student of history to know how this crowd in Washington works. Who remembers this when Bill Clinton was busted? The thing with Monica Lewinsky didn't bother Hillary at all. Vast right-wing conspiracy, still married to the man to this day. Some would ask, why? Why was this the case? It damaged her politically. So many were saying, this is your excuse. This gives us an opportunity to continue to demonize men and boys and masculinity and continue to promote our feminist agenda. But you see, she knew there was something else going on, that she didn't want to come out. See, they have this open relationship because she has certain itches that she wanted to scratch, and she wanted to keep that private. Because at this time, back in the 90s, that would have been far more scandalous than what he did. So they stayed the loving, married couple. Now here's the part that are really going to confuse a lot of people. Back during this era, even though they were Democrats from Tennessee and Arkansas. And the people in power at that time realized and had the belief that one lap was much like another. This group of powerful people, whether it was the men or whether it was the women, believed that one lap was much like another, and they could be interchanged. You see, Hillary knew all about this and didn't care, because her and Bill had the same arrangement that Melania and Don do. This was something that these guys were best friends for a long time. The Clintons were honored guests at Don's wedding to Melania. This young woman, though, made the mistake of actually falling for the guy. And she couldn't keep the look off her face in public. And everybody saw it, and everybody knew. That was the only problem. That was the only problem that Hillary had with Monica. It wasn't the actions. It was that she wasn't discreet. Does that sound familiar? And this guy, this guy. See, people love to talk about all of the wonderful things that go on at Mar-A-Lago. There are some very nice things that happen down there. They have their parties and get-togethers, but there are some other things that are questionable. And that's what they're looking for. Now, let me say this again, said it in yesterday's video. I'm not judging anybody. God bless them if they're happy together. I hope they spend the rest of their lives very happy together. But it's pretty clear that Don Jr. and Kim have somewhat of an alternative lifestyle. And that centers around life down at Mar-A-Lago. So does his brother and his wife, Laura. Laura, for example, decided to do a fundraiser for animal needs. Pets that needed adopted or pets that were in risky situations, getting them homes. A very noble cause. So Laura invited a bunch of very wealthy, much older, eccentric women down to Mar-A-Lago, where they had men up on tables that they were bidding to take home. All of the proceeds, of course, going to save little animals. Do you see the problem here? It's like, okay, great idea. How you're going about it? There's another event that goes on at Mar-A-Lago. It's called the Palm event. Now, it is a neat thing. They have some of the coolest old race cars from all over the world that show up. See, this is someplace you would want to take a kid and show them all the really cool cars. Especially young boys would love this. But there's a bit of a problem. There are these supermodels walking around everywhere, somewhat varying states of dress. And depending on how tall the boy would be, he might be able to see something he wasn't bargaining for. So you would be kind of stuck. You'd want to, of course, go to the event and have it be this memory-making thing for you and a kid. And by the way, there are kids there. But there's this other part. This is what the left is going for. They know the evidence is down there somewhere. And they're digging for it. This moral outrage. Because nothing else is going to stick. Nothing else. Their only hope is to deactivate the Mormon crowd and deactivate the super religious right-wing Bible thumpers in the South. That's the only chance they have in 2024. If you would like to see this for yourself, and I'll warn you, there are some things on this channel that you're not going to be able to unsee. This is a channel here on YouTube called Luxury Properties International. It is a woman who is a Russian real estate agent specializing in high-end properties in and around Mar-A-Lago. And there's all sorts of videos of her with Don at different events. If you go look through these videos, you'll see normal things, things you would expect, but you'll also see other things, things that would make you want to go wash your eyeballs out. Not a shy woman. It just is what it is. It is part of the thing that goes on down there. And the left has known about this for years. It's virtually the Playboy Mansion East. If there could be a version of the Playboy Mansion East, Mar-A-Lago would be it. Wild parties, half-naked people, and like I said, this was going around, and it doesn't, anybody who's from Florida would say, yeah, this probably is for sure true. Kim Guilfoyle and Don Jr. going out and offering lap dances and talking about dressing up like Dallas Cowboy cheerleader things. I mean, that's definitely them. Now, here's where things get a little weird. The idea of selective moral outrage is not new. Grover Cleveland has something very strange in common with Donald Trump. He was elected to one term, then lost, and then was reelected again. He was the 22nd and 24th president of the United States. By any measure, he was a devoutly Christian man. But how he came to be married has made a lot of people uncomfortable. This is his wife up here. This is him sitting to the right. When he was 27 years old, he had a friend, a lawyer, that had a little baby girl. The lawyer, 11 years later, died unexpectedly with no will. The little 11-year-old girl was assigned to the custody of Grover Cleveland. He basically raised her from 11 to about 18, 19 years old and then proposed to her. That's this woman right here. And they had 4 kids. Now, by modern standards, the moral outrage would be through the roof. It would be seen as wildly, just absolutely beyond the pale. But not at that time. Who remembers all the big advertisements for 23andMe? Believe me, this all has a purpose. This all ties in. Stick with me. I know this seems like it's unrelated, but it is. The people who started to do this thing, this 23andMe and Ancestry DNA, where you send in your little saliva sample and they tell you about your 15th cousin 3 states over. You see, they didn't realize that people were going to care a lot more about their great-great-great-great-grandfather than their 15th cousin 3 states over. So when this started to get popular and a bunch of Gen Zers and millennials started looking into their past, and they started seeing, wait a minute, how did my great-great-great-grandmother have 3 kids by the time she was 18? They started having to go to therapy because history didn't teach them how recent things were done very, very differently. How belief systems and morality have changed, literally turned on their head from only 100 and something years ago. You see, this is selective moral outrage. The people that did this didn't realize the interest would be farther back, not parallel. They thought that by giving people access to all of their cousins in the modern world, that they would be bringing families together, when what they were doing was destroying people's vision of where they came from. Because nobody taught them this. See, at this time, what Grover Cleveland did, there was absolutely nothing wrong with at that time. But it makes people have to understand that morality is subjective. It's not objective. What's moral now wasn't moral then, and vice versa. There are things we would call immoral now that were perfectly fine then. This is what the left doesn't get, and why they're going to lose. See, all this stuff going on, I hope, and I'll say this again, and I want to say this for the record, I hope Don Jr. and Eric Jr. and their wives are married for the rest of their lives, and they're happy, and they love every moment of that they get on the planet, for whatever choices they make. Whatever makes them happy, not mine to judge. It isn't, but the left wants to. The left wants to find something to outrage you about. And believe me, in Florida, there's a lot of salacious stories. There's a lot of really interesting things that go on. Just like there has always been. The Kennedys, go back as far as you want to go. But they're going back to the well.
I think that's the more likely scenario.
And he's absolutely right. They're going back to the well of selective moral outrage. They're not deluding themselves, trying to think that somehow they can stop Donald Trump from running in 24. They're trying to find something to make people go, oh, that is just, I can't believe that went on, or there's pictures of this, or there's video of that. That's what they're looking for. That's what this was all about. And there's more proof of it. And like I said, just look up Luxury Properties International, just like it sounds, right here on YouTube. Warning, there will be some things that you will want to not see. but it'll show you the reality of the inner workings of Mar-A-Lago. So, anyway, I will leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.